The weekend that the, let's say, racial uprising began, was actually a personal anniversary for me, which was the anniversary of my grandmother's death. And a lot of my work at Hewlett is very motivated by that relationship. And so my grandmother has always really done a lot of work in and around Black communities. And so I was already kind of in a very emotional place. But at the time that sort of movement started happening, I remember immediately thinking, well, I have to do something, because for the first time I felt like I was in a position to do something. But I think from a feelings perspective, I was very fearful, actually, because it felt like my personal and professional life were converging in ways that I didn't necessarily want them to. And Faye and I have talked about this a lot, actually. I feel like I've been really guarded about my personal life. But in this moment, it felt like, it just felt like everything was aligned. And so I remember looking at this opportunity as one that I was uniquely poised to contribute to. And Faye said something almost identical to that to me within a few days, of us kind of as a foundation really addressing what this moment called of us. And in terms of the grants themselves, I mean, what I would say is that it felt very clear to me that a lot of my work had prepared me to see how we could respond to this quickly and effectively. And I knew that we had unallocated dollars, and I knew that that was something that we typically would move towards something that was more responsive in nature. And I also knew that our culture would probably benefit from something inclusive.
When the board approved the use of $18 million for unallocated, from the unallocated funds, to use specifically for anti-racism work, I think that was a real milestone for the Hewlett Foundation. In the context of the racial uprising that Jasmine was referring to, and all the different feelings that people were having around the building, around the country, it was a unique moment, a moment of reckoning, an overdue moment of reckoning. And, you know, on the basis of lots of input from staff, Larry went to the board with that as one of our recommendations, his recommendations in terms of how to use the unallocated funds, and came out with that approval, enthusiastic approval. That was the board meeting at which the board really talked about what was happening, all of the different crises that were unfolding, you know, laying bare all the fault lines of our society in that summer board meeting. I think it was the July board meeting. And they really encouraged us to act boldly, to be more bold in our work around race in particular, but around other issues as well. And so I think the approval of these grants and the opportunity for the whole staff to do something, you know, also was part of the board's shift in wanting to be more active in this space, and also realizing that this was a moment to really step up and deal with some of the racial injustice that we had never really taken head on, dealt with head on in the foundation. Larry, you know, tasked Jasmine, Amy, Arberton, and me with the opportunity to design a participatory process involving all of our staff, so a highly inclusive process to involve all of our staff. And he did that for a few different reasons. One, Amy and Jasmine had been working on an analysis of participatory grant making, really trying to understand what goes into participatory work, and also because our whole staff was really, I would say, in some tumult about what was happening around the country, and wanted to find some way to participate in responding as a foundation. And so I remember feeling both honored by the opportunity and also felt like it was high stakes. It felt like new territory. I had confidence that as a little design team, we would figure it out, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to look like until we started engaging in the conversations that went pretty deep.
I feel like there were sort of two efforts that were going on simultaneously, which was one, sort of the outward facing effort to respond and be thoughtful in doing so, but also really like respond internally, you know, respond to the needs of our staff, respond to the needs of Black staff, respond to the requests of staff. I mean, when I say the personal and professional converged, I mean that quite literally, in that, you know, we're working from home. I'm in my apartment in Oakland, you know, all hell's breaking loose outside. And we're, you know, I'm trying to meet this moment and stand, you know, with this sort of virtual community. It was just a real conflation of, I felt like, a lot of different needs. And so I thought, you know, I think about that a lot when I think about sort of the beginning, is that there was a real investment in doing this well from the inside out.
You know, I just remember every conversation was really full, right, Jasmine? It was like full of ideas and also feelings. There's just a lot of feelings, of currents of feelings going on, you know, in the foundation, in our team, in the world. So acknowledging, taking time in every conversation to start with, how are you feeling? Was not just a nice to have, it was a need to have. And I think that sort of helped us level set and be open to the ideas.
I went into this with lots of hope, not so much confidence. One of the things that was very important to me is Fay and Larry said to me very early on, like, we got your back. I don't know how to say this any other way than that, but so often, and I've had this experience before, like, as a Black voice, you are kind of allowed a leadership opportunity, but you also kind of have to feel the swift fall of the axe if you mess up. And I think what was actually really the only confidence I had was that if I mess this up, this was a decision that leadership made, that they will stand behind, they will support me in. Which was why I think we dream big, but I don't know that I was confident. I just want to clear. I was like, we're just gonna see how this goes. The task at hand, it was figure out a way in 3 months that we can move this money in a way that is fair, that is, you know, not undoing the intended effects of the grants themselves by creating harm, and that is meaningfully representing our entire organization. And I take that seriously as a collection of a lot of different people, not just program staff, right? So like, that felt enormous to me, but mostly from the position of like, this is an opportunity to represent our community, and I don't want to misrepresent anyone or anything.